We're on. Morning, everybody. Tom Pinkney, Jake Woodward, Ollie McIntosh. Can you all hear me?
Unmute you all. Unmute.
You can all hear me. Excellent. That's good. Welcome. Welcome everybody to this meeting of the Central Otago District Council Hearings Panel. The panel is all here. The first thing we need to do is item 25.5.1, which is to confirm the minutes of the meeting held on the 11th of February 2025. I'll move that be confirmed. Seconded by Martin. All in favour?
Aye.
Carried. Thank you. Rightio. Now we'll move on then to item 25.5.2, RC 250060 Northburn Limited. This is a properly convened meeting of the hearings panel called for the purpose of hearing a resource application for a series of boundary realignments and consolidating two previous approved resource consents at 44 Northburn Station Road and 70 Middleton Road. I'd ask the Minute Secretary to report on proceedings to date.
All statutory requirements under Section 95 of the Resource Management Act have been complied with. Section 42A report prepared by the planning consultant has been circulated to address the service.
Thank you. The following procedure will be followed for the hearing. The panel may ask questions. Council's officers or its consultants will direct any questions or clarification through the chair, and the chair shall be deemed to be the person asking the questions. The applicant or the applicant's representatives will be invited to make submissions and present evidence. The Section 42A report writer will be invited to provide a right of reply following the hearing of evidence and submissions. The applicant will have the right of reply but shall not be permitted to again traverse the evidence nor raise new evidence. Before proceeding with the hearing, I'd ask that all parties appearing identify themselves. I'll start with the panel. Neil Gillespie, the chair, to my left, Martin McPherson, to his left, Ian Cooney, members of the panel, Karen to our right, who will keep us in order, and Rogers, who is an advisor to the panel. Online, everybody's online. There's no one else in the room. It's really weird, sitting there looking at the blank table.
This is strange.
So I'll just say who's there if that's easier. So Ollie McIntosh, you're the Section 42A report author. Jake, you're the planning consultant for the applicant, and Tom Pinkney, Northburn Station, you are the applicant. Have I got that right? Excellent. That's right.
That's it.
I'll mute it. Right, I'll move that the Section 42A report prepared by the planning consultant be taken as read.
Second.
All in favour?
Aye.
Against, carried. Right, on that basis, we'll hand over to the applicant to present their case. Now, we are in receipt of your email, Jake, that you sent the other day. So over to you guys.
I'll just unmute you, Jake.
Oh, sorry, you can hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to the panel. Thanks, Ollie, for joining us. Yeah, look, I suppose given the nature of the application, appreciating we haven't submitted any formal evidence, but I thought I'd just reiterate or point out the nature of the proposal just by referring back to my email that was tabled. So this application effectively, as pointed out, seeks to combine a number of boundary adjustments that were already consented at 44 Northburn Station Road and number 70 Middleton Road. The underlying resource consents are RC 230212 and 230216. So both of them were boundary adjustment application in relation to Northburn Station. They were processed separately purely because they were geographically separate, and they were both subsequently issued their own consent. It is proposed to effectively combine the two applications into one and to give it a brand new reference number. So no changes are proposed to any of the realignments, no changes are proposed to the size of the allotment, and the scheme plan that we have submitted is effectively combining those two separate applications together. As I'm sure the panel are now aware, Northburn Station is currently on the market. And as such, it's in our client's best interest to minimise any complications stemming from a number of resource consent applications which are on the go. So it is our desire to try and combine these applications purely for the sake of efficiency and costs. To outline to the panel just exactly what that means, in order to go through a titling process in terms of 223 and 224C, the applicant effectively need to enact each application individually, and that can take anywhere from say 6 to 12 months to go through the entire process given the size of Northburn Station. The balance block is over 8,000 hectares in the area. In addition to that, separate deposits are required, separate survey and data sets are required, which can amount to anywhere between $10,000 to $30,000 each time. The applicant survey reached out to council in January this year to see if we could effectively amalgamate the two separate decisions into one and process the 223 and the 224C application together. The answer to that question was no, they cannot. They are separate applications. So for all intents and purposes, this proposal is simply seeking to combine the two. We appreciate that there have been a number of consent over the years through Northburn Station, but I simply point out to the panel that this boundary adjustment, which consents are currently held for, they can be given effect to, and depending on the decision of this hearing and this application will dictate effectively the timing going forward. The idea is to minimise everyone's time and cost involved, so we are sitting tightly and hoping for a pragmatic outcome for this application.
Thanks, Jake. We've got a couple of questions that I'd like to just run through just to clarify things. Would it be fair to say that in hindsight, given these two applications were probably lodged at the same time, given that the original two were only 4 numbers apart, that in hindsight they should have both been done one application at that time? That it made sense in hindsight?
In hindsight, it does. Just to point out the reason why we lodged them separately is one of the applications required a non-compliant consent because one of the allotment sizes was going to be 1.95 hectares. Whereas the boundary adjustment associated with 70 Middleton Road was going to be assessed as a discretionary activity. Now, at the time, you'll appreciate that there's been changes in terms of delegation, what gets signed off, what goes to a hearing. So in the interest of time, we wanted to try and get a couple of consents across the line quicker. In the end, council applied quite a pragmatic approach to both applications anyway. So the outcome was pretty good, but on reflection, it would probably make sense to combine them at the time.
Yeah. Okay. And listen, that's not, that observation isn't a criticism, just me trying to get my head around how we ended up here. Because I guess in reality, in simple terms, we're talking about boundary realignments, but in actual fact, they're subdivisions through and through, aren't they? That's what they are. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. So initially they were filed as boundary adjustment purely because there was no additional titles being created. Through working with council and through relying on some previous case law, the decision was made in terms of council policy that the nature or the extent of the change was not minor in this context and therefore constituted a subdivision.
Yeah. I think our boundary adjustment rules have been the subject of many attempts to achieve outcomes, and in the end, probably haven't been as helpful as people would like them to be. The other thing I just want to question is that effectively RC 230, 212 and 216, because they haven't been given effect to, they're still live. So should they technically have to be surrendered as part of this?
Yeah, I would agree. I think if this application RC 250060 is granted by the panel, then those two underlying consents would effectively become null and void.
Yeah, they would have to be. Well, can a consent become null and void, or because it's still live with a lapse date?
I think we would probably look to. I think we'd probably look to surrender them all together because ultimately the conditions will read the same. And I suppose to avoid any confusion in terms of what consent are we given effect to, the idea would be to give effect to this one combined application.
I guess because if they stay live, then for whatever reason the applicant then's got 3 live consents and they can do the original ones or Right, I've answered my own question. 222. Should have been a shift. And this is a precursor to a question that I'm going to give to Ollie. So if I ask you, you can tell me what you think, and then Ollie's got some time to be ready to tell me the answer when it gets to him. I'm surprised that because this new application and the old ones require right-of-ways being established and those sort of things. I'm surprised there's no conditions around the standards relating to those.
Yeah.
Have you got a comment as to why I would expect not to see some recommendations about compliance with right-of-ways and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, so that was a point of discussion and assessment during the original application. And put simply, we promoted that the nature of the access, and particularly given that the fact that there were going to be no specific changes to the underlying land use, that no additional changes to the, to the standard of the access was being promoted. And that subsequently went through a conversation with the engineering team. So ultimately, because there were no physical changes being promoted, it was really just around ensuring things like the servicing was in place. The right-of-way was kept as they are.
So on that basis, would it be sensible, just like as proposed in condition 6A about the wastewater disposal things, to make sure that they're up to spec, that there could be a similar condition around the rights of way and other stuff to make sure they are up to spec?
I would probably have to reserve a response to the right of reply, because we do have correspondence around the driveway specifically, and we've gone as far as checking things like the gradients and so on. So I'd have to just recheck exactly what that was, because ultimately we don't want to be doing the same thing twice. So I understand what you're saying, but I suppose with the wastewater, I mean, that makes sense in the sense of we were waiting for the consent to come through in order to have some reassurance that we're not necessarily spending time and cost on investigating the wastewater in advance of, are we going to get these boundary adjustments across the line? I can confirm, by the way, that all of those conditions have been given effect to, and we're ready to submit for 224C. But for the driveway, like I say, there was effectively conversation throughout the original consent process that they were fit for purpose.
Yeah, I do note in the original conditions of the previous two consents, there was nothing about that there either. My observation would be is that, subject to what I hear from the 42A report writer, is that just because they weren't there doesn't mean to say they're not appropriate or for here. And on the basis that they are likely already comply, I would have thought that the belts and braces approach to any consent run should make sure that it is, so there's no doubt. And I know the applicant is such a trustworthy person, he'd never do anything that wouldn't be required. That it might just be me dotting I's and crossing T's, potentially.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, like I say, I'd have to go back and recheck the record. The driveways were a point of discussion a year ago, in terms of the standards and the width and everything like that. And so I think to double up the process, we're trying not to undermine this particular process by adding more cost. The preference would effectively be to just translate those existing conditions to what we have to where we are today.
Yeah. I think because when I look at the scheme plans and see the extent of the right-of-ways that are on there, I guess it just surprised me that the consent conditions don't refer to them in any way at all, that I can see. But Ollie may have some information that could help me alleviate my concern. And if he hasn't, then I would suggest it's a simple condition that actually the applicant will be able to comply with quite easily anyway if we grant it. Right, that's my questions done. Sorry if I've stolen the panels. No. Any clarification that I missed?
I do have a clarification. So, Jake, would it be fair to say that this is more of a reconfiguration than a boundary adjustment, as we normally would deem a boundary adjustment?
Yeah, I suppose I don't want to get too caught up on how we define it. I guess at the end of the day, we are reconfiguring the boundaries. Equally, the boundaries are being adjusted. So I think fundamentally we've taken the position that it is just effectively a subdivision, but that subdivision is resulting in a rationalisation of boundaries around activities.
Yeah. Thank you. The other thing is, I'm looking, is there a new plan? I'm not sure if it's the one I'm looking at. Is there a new plan of subdivision that comes with this new application?
Yeah, I found it. I had to look several times, but I found it. Let me tell you where it is.
Is it on page 26?
Is that page 26?
No.
No.
Oh, well, it might be. You mean the conditions?
No.
I believe it's Appendix C of RC 250060 on the agenda is on page 93
Oh, okay.
and 94 and 95.
So 26 is the original.
So is this is the new plans?
Yeah, on pages 93, 94, 95.
There should be, sorry if I can jump in, there should be 3 plans in total, one of them being an overview plan.
Yeah.
And then,
Oh, yep.
Oh, yeah.
and then the following 2 plans is just a close-up of the specific properties in question. Yeah.
Yeah, and they are the ones that are on page 24, 25 and 26 of the agenda as well.
Yes.
Yeah, I was like you, I was going through and saying,
Just trying to work out what.
yeah,
Oh, I was right the first time round then.
yeah,
Thank
right.
you. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Thanks, Jake. Nothing else? Tom doesn't want to say anything?
That's probably all I have at this point in time, and I just looking down at Tom just to see if he had any. He's got one comment.
You got a comment? We'll have to unmute you, Tom.
You'll have to unmute.
Can you unmute yourself, Tom?
I think I can probably do that.
Excellent. There you go.
Hello, Mr. Chairman and panel and everyone else. Thank you for taking the time. I just wanted to reiterate the cost and time savings associated for all parties. Ourselves, yes, of course, but also the council. I presume there's staff costs and time in the 2D3 and 2D4C doing it twice, and Lynn's as well. So I'm just trying to reduce the bureaucratic muddle.
That's a very polite description of it, Tom.
I'll leave it at that. Thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Righto. Thanks, Tom and Ollie, Tom and Jake. Now we'll ask the Section 42A report writer to respond to matters raised in the evidence indicating or the submission with the original recommendation still stands and anything else they wish to add. Ollie, welcome from the Gold Coast. Or somewhere.
Hello, Mr. Chairman, panel, Jake, Tom, everyone. I've been scrambling to find some correspondence that I do know exists on council files there that Jake was referring to, in respect to the right of ways and discussions that were had around those in the processing of the original applications. Not got it right in front of me now. I know it does exist out there, and from memory, admittedly it was a while ago now, but my recollection sort of accords with what Jake said, that basically the question was raised, and I think there was a couple of spots of the existing right-of-way that were found to be problematic in the sense that they might be a little bit difficult to bring strictly up to standard, however that they'd been performing perfectly adequately for the purposes that they were being used for forever, and that these applications weren't changing what they were serving. I recall a conversation with engineering about that, and effectively that there weren't any safety concerns or anything like that. I think it was around a pinch point. Jake may recall better, or Tom may recall better. I believe it was around a pinch point at a culvert or something like that. So apologies, I don't have a clear answer to you for that, but the long and short of it was that we reached a point where we were going, well, there's no real net change in what these are serving, and everyone was content to allow the right of ways to carry on as they currently are.
So that said, Ollie, it would not be inappropriate then to have a condition that, like the wastewater one, that said that they need to be signed off and confirmed to the satisfaction of the engineering or whatever it is, like we would normally do for that sort of thing. So it's quite clear, particularly if there is a couple of pinch point that says there is an issue. But I think I would have thought the appropriate way to cover it off was to make sure there's a condition that says, you know, got to meet our standards to the satisfaction of the infrastructure manager, what the normal clauses. Yeah. Would that make sense?
Yeah. We've got a standard condition to that effect. So yeah. If the panel is of a mind to include that condition, then I see no issue including that. Likewise, well, I don't see it as strictly necessary, but from a administrative neatness kind of point of view, a condition explicitly requiring the surrender of those other prior consents when this one's given effect to is something that we've done in the past also.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah, I think, you know, without saying the panel is going to approve it, I would have thought in the event that we do that, those sort of things we would want to cover off on. And yeah, I'd expect nothing more than the standard conditions. And if what you've said, both you and Jake have said, is correct, then I don't see there being any issue with that. But I'm sorry, Jake can pick that up in the reply, I guess. Anything else, Ollie?
Nothing further from me, thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the panel? And all happy? Thanks, Ollie. Jake, we're back to you for your right of reply.
Thanks, Ollie. Just while you're talking, Ollie, I've just brought up the planner's report. So I don't necessarily receive the engineering reports unless I request for them. But a lot of the engineering comments are translated into a decision, which is really helpful. So I've got in front of me the decision for RC 230212. This is the boundary adjustment realignment subdivision as it relates to the Homestead block with the right of way that I think perhaps you're focusing on, Mr. Chairman. And I just want to read out the assessment that was undertaken for that particular consent. I note that this consent is attached as Appendix B in my application. So that might be on page, I'm not too sure what page it's on, but it'll be on page 6 of 12 of the decision for 230212. Perhaps if the panel take a couple of minutes to find it and I'll read through with you.
Thanks. I'll just try and find it. 230. Page
6 of 12.
Page 60 of the agenda is the 42A report for 212.
Correct.
So is there something in that report?
Yeah, so there was a full assessment on the right of way, and I'll briefly read through if I may. So the homestead and the cottage are currently accessed by an existing gravel driveway. The driveway, detailed in the original plan, is made of compacted gravel and varies in width from 2.66 metres to 3.5 metres. The intention is to keep this access as the driveway to proposed lot 1 being the homestead and lot 2 the cottage. A 10-metre wide easement is planned, allowing lots 1 and 2 to traverse what is effectively lot 100. That's the balance block for Northburn. Council's rural standards stipulate certain requirements for a right-of-way serving fewer than 6 lots, specifically a 4.5 metre carriageway. In this specific case, the existing driveway does not meet the 4.5 metre width as required by council standards. Moving forward, I provided additional responses to the council in terms of an RFI. And my response was, I looked at the access in detail and am satisfied that the condition and the way it functioned, which remained unchanged through this process, did not necessitate a change. The scour protection in particular is considered not necessary on the basis that there is no evidence of scouring occurring and the extensive grass swales that borders both sides of the bridge, photo attached. I should probably, so So moving on from there, the application was internally referred to Council's environmental engineer, who raised no concerns and confirmed that they considered the application and proposed condition to be generally appropriate under the circumstances. I note that no changes to the existing access are proposed and a driveway is already in use by both the homestead and the cottage. The conclusion then goes on to say, given the existing access has good visibility, is generally well formed, has unformed areas alongside which are suitable for pulling over and passing when necessary, and appears to satisfactory function for its current level of use, I recommend granting consent without any changes to the existing access requirement. No changes to existing servicing, and that relate to servicing. So the council code of practice requires a 10-metre wide legal width, which has been provided, and a 4.5-metre formed width, which is not being provided. It was subsequently assessed in terms of its safety, efficiency, and its level of service. And of course, in the opinion of the engineer at the time, and of course, the reporting officer, Ollie, was determined to be appropriate. No conditions were imposed. My concern with a condition is that the condition typically will say something along the lines of you shall demonstrate that it's up to compliance with table 3.2 of the code of practice. And that undermines the entire assessment process that we've gone through with this engineer already. I think it's difficult to impose a condition that allows some degree of discretion to be applied from an engineer. I suppose the engineer's assessed it and has made a determination that conditions are not necessary. So it'd be our position that we would want to maintain the status quo as to the conditions that are currently imposed, recognising that it has been assessed and at that time determined as appropriate. My last point is I'd agree with Ollie that the surrendering of the underlying to consent would make sense in the applicant's case, should this consent be approved.
Right, thank you for that. I hear what you're saying, and obviously as part of our deliberations, we're reminded to grant consent, we'll consider what you've said and the information that's contained in that previous consent application. Yeah, and certainly I wouldn't have thought that the panel would want to make it any more difficult than it needs to be, other than to make sure that we have consistent decisions coming out of the panel about such things in some way, shape or form. Yeah, it may well be appropriate that there's no condition, but this decision will have to reflect on that to say that as well, which in its current form, I don't believe, well, the decision we can make would do that. Yeah, we pick it up as part of the decision. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand. I suppose at the end of the day, the panel are in a position to be able to effectively refer back to consent 230212 and even the original engineering advice, and they would be in a position to provide commentary that at the time it was determined as appropriate, and for these reasons the panel wouldn't see a need to provide additional conditions. There is a pathway afforded, but I leave it for the panel to make that determination, obviously.
I think all is a matter of we'd have to just pick up the fact that engineering assessments and any other assessments on the previous applications we have to consider in our decision here, because as if they're just applied for as one new consent or one consent. It's probably just because they've been combined, thinking that the easy way to do actually some of that stuff has dropped off, it's over there, and in our decision making we need to bring it into our decision. Yeah. I think that makes sense. All right, other than that, anything else to add?
I think that's it from us, Mr. Chairman and panel. Thank you very much for your time.
Cool. Any final questions from the panel? No? And all right, on that basis, I can confirm that the decision of the hearing panel is reserved. The formal decision will be in writing and will be available within the statutory period of 15 working days. And then release of the decision is delayed. The applicant will be advised of that delay. The hearing is now adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, panel. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thanks, panel. Right.
Thanks, everyone.
Ready?
You happy?
Yeah,
Everybody there that you want to see there?
I can see Shannon,
Ollie,
Screen, Ollie's there.
yeah,
See myself, it's great. Sean is here. Sean's one of the directors of the applicant's company.
cool. Right, before you start, I'll just do the formal bit. Right, let's resume the meeting of the Central Otago District Council Hearings Panel to item number 25.5.3. Resource consent 250055. This is the properly convened meeting of the hearings panel called for the purpose of hearing resource application for subdivision consent to create 5 residential allotments and 1 balance lot in 2 stages at 155 and 157 Dunstan Road. I ask the Minute Secretary to report on proceedings to date.
All statutory requirements under section 95 of the Resource Management Act have been complied with. The section 42A report prepared by the planning consultant has been circulated for address for service.
Thank you. The following procedure will be followed for the hearing. The panel may ask questions. Council's officers or its consultants will direct any questions, points, clarification through the chair, and the chair shall be deemed to be the person asking the questions. The applicant or the applicant's representative will be invited to make submissions and present evidence. The section 42A report writer will be invited to provide a writer reply following the hearing of the evidence and submissions. The applicant will have the right to reply, but shall not be permitted to again traverse the evidence nor raise new evidence. Before proceeding with the hearing, I'd ask the panel, I'd ask that all parties appear and identify themselves. I'll start with the panel. Neil Gillespie, I'm the chair of the panel. To my left, Martin McPherson, and to his left, Ian McPherson. Goodness me, there is Ione Ian McPherson. That's why I did that. Ian Kearney, my fellow panel members. Karen to our right, who makes sure that we do things administratively correctly, and more importantly, Anne, who advises the panel on technical matters. The applicant.
Thank you.
Craig Barr, Sean. That's right, I knew that. I just couldn't think. And you've got Shannon Garden online.
Morning all.
Right. Morning, everybody. Okay, I'll move that the section 42A report be prepared by been prepared by the planning consultant be taken as read. Someone like to second that? Ian, all in favour?
Aye.
Carried. Done. Mr. Barr, all yours.
Thank you. So what we have before us is a 5-lot subdivision with a balance lot in the large lot residential zone on Dunstan Road. Take to the scheme plan that's appended to the back of the application, and it's also in the council officers report as well. It's figure 1 on page 99 of the agenda doc. So there's not an awful lot to see from the applicant's perspective. Subdivision complies with the large lot residential zone and change 19 minimum lot size requirements. Each lot has achieves the minimum site size of 100 metres squared. You can see that there's an existing dwelling on the site that's going to be contained in lot 1. There is some land on the application site that is going to be incorporated into the adjoining site at 155 Dunstan Road. That's lot 100. A right of ways proposed to access the lots. That is, so as sort of far as we're concerned, and also in terms of the council officers report, is not a lot to see. It's a straightforward subdivision. The applicant and the council officer agree with the conditions. So there's nothing particularly contentious there that I need to sort of justify to you or sort of depart from the council officer's report or the application. I think to point out that the reason why we're here is because the application is non-compliant, and we understand that the council has a delegation that non-complying activities end up in front of the hearings panel for consideration. The only reason why it's non-complying is because of the legacy rural residential zoning, which still has, the rules still have legal effect, and those rules require a 2 hectare minimum site size. But if it weren't for that, the activity would be a restricted discretionary activity and could have been, given that we're in agreement with the conditions, could have been signed off by council officers under delegation. So yeah, that's essentially it. I mean, we also know there's been a subdivision up the road at what's called the William Hill Molyneux Estates site for 60 lots as well. That was signed off in February, and that was also a restricted discretionary activity under the Plan Change 19 provisions, but it triggered the non-complying rule because of the legacy rural residential zoning still having effect, and so that was signed off to level 2. So there's essentially would have been an opportunity to have it signed off, but we're here now. Signed off at council officers, but we're here now, and that's effectively it. There's not much else to report on, Brett.
Thank you. I think you've summed it up. But for appeals, we wouldn't be here.
Yeah, well, the appeals, there are 2 appeals. There's the appeal on the site, but there's also an appeal on the provisions.
Yeah, no, I meant, yeah.
Yeah.
But for appeals, as in general,
Yeah.
we wouldn't be here if they, and that's just timing. So,
Yeah, correct.
yeah, but otherwise, I agree with your summation.
Yeah.
I'd like to just summarise something because I had to get my head around just what we're doing in terms of the staging. So I've just got to make sure I get this right. So I think I've got it right. But would I be correct if I said that the first subdivision creates lot 1 in its own title?
There is a staging plan.
Yeah. I just want to make sure I'm interpreting it right because it just helps the way my brain works.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lot 2, 100, 101, and 100 includes that 12 metres square section at the Downston Road entranceway in their own title.
Yes.
So will they be called by those lot numbers at this stage, or will they be called a separate lot?
They'll be called by those lot numbers.
Yeah, cool. That's what I thought. Yep.
If I can just interrupt there, Mr. Chairman, lot 2 and lot 101 will be held in one title under that first stage.
What about 100?
100 will be 100's effectively an amalgamation of that small slice of land with the neighbouring site to the rear.
Yeah, lot 100 will get joined. Lot 100 has a title. So that title will stay. It will increase in size by about, I think, 1,700-ish square meters.
So you're correct in that lot 100 will have its own title, but just keep in mind that's not an additional lot that's being created. That's just the rear site that's having that sort of northern corner of this site added to it.
So it's going to get that back property that's technically described as 129 Gilligan's Gully Road.
That's right, it's already there. If you go
It's
to
amalgamated
page
now.
197 of the agenda, which is the proposed subdivision plan, you'll see the subdivision scheme and lot 100, and it includes the square of land that's currently on the application site, and there's an inset which shows the larger or the total area of lot 100.
Okay.
Yeah, but you're right, it includes the bit of land that was one.
Yeah. So lot 100 will be in its own title. So the first stage will create 3 titles from 2.
This stage will create 4.
3 titles from 2.
There will be 4 titles, but there's already 2.
Okay. Lot 1 is 1 title.
Correct.
Lot 2 and lot 101 will be 1 title.
Correct.
But I thought I understood that lot 2 and lot 101 will be held in the same title.
Correct, I got that wrong.
So 3 titles?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're all wrong.
Yeah. 3 titles, yeah, lot 2 and lot 101.
Right, sorry, and I was wrong about lot 100. I'm sorry, and it's quite clear now. So this is why I wanted to do this, to make sure I had it right. Just wasn't convinced. All right, so we've got that sorted out. Then the second subdivision will create lots 2, 3, 4, and 5 in their own titles.
Correct.
And then the balance of 101, will that then be amalgamated with 100?
101 becomes lots 3, 4, and 5.
Ah, yes.
You mean,
Okay.
you mean where the house is
Yeah.
lot 1?
No. So lot 100.
Yeah. Lot 100 will stay as it is with that scheme that you can see on the inset, which is effectively what it is now, plus a little bit of,
And, you know, 100 becomes lot 1.
1,
Yeah.
2, 3, 4, 5. Ah, yeah, right. Yes, lot 100 stays the same.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
4.3 hectares.
So lot 101 becomes all them other ones. And the 12 metre square bit I thought was had been excluded, but that's actually part of lot 100. Right, cool.
Yes, and the driveway and the sort of
Right, yeah.
alignment.
Yep, cool. Right.
Yep.
All right, thank you. That's clarified that for me. Into there. All right, that just gets me the perspective of that being right. Just bear with me. Non-compliant, tick. Yes, got that. Right, need a separate, no, we don't, yeah, it is, okay, confirmed, that's, so I'm just ticking off some things that I had noted.
Mr. Chairman, that's a form of clarification.
Yeah, please.
Sorry, Craig. So in stage 2, does lot 1 get amalgamated with lot 100?
No, the reason why it's not shown
Yeah,
on that staging plan,
yeah,
I'd say that the reason why it's probably shown without an appellation boundary is probably because it's been given Pet 2. And they're probably trying to distinguish what gets titled in stage 2. But in stage 1, lot 100 gets, and lot 100 and that bit of land next to the house get put together. And the title for lot 1 gets issued. So that's probably why the survey did.
so 1 and 100 will get amalgamated.
No,
Oh.
it's just not shown in the stage 2 plan as having lots because they're not part of stage 2. You know what I mean? That's been,
So stage 2 is only a subdivision of 101 into lot 2.
that's correct.
The lot 2, okay, that's.
Yeah, I think your point is when it's shown, lot 2 has a boundary.
Yeah,
And on that plan, the lot 1 and lot 100 don't have that
yeah,
concept.
yeah.
Just
Just seems a bit odd.
yeah. In terms of what the outcome is, it doesn't
Because lot
change
2
anything.
almost feels like it shouldn't be in the stage 2 that's already been created.
Yeah, but it's held in the same title.
Held at the same time.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's under cups.
What's that?
He's under cups.
Okay,
At the same place.
yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, so back to what my summation was, that lot 2 and lot 101 are separate lots in the same title as part of stage 1.
Yes.
And then when you do stage 2,
You split them all.
you split lot 2 and lot 101 into lot 2, 3, 4, and 5, and that extinguishes 101.
That's
Correct.
correct.
And lot 2 is already extinguished because it's there already created.
Yeah, that's right. A lot's already created to be the amalgamation. Yeah, so you don't that's subdivision, the lot boundaries.
Yeah, and the reason that's not already done as part of stage 1 is because of services and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, which I'm glad someone else is sort of
Yeah,
down rabbit holes like I was and trying to just make sure they understood how it was going to work. Because when I worked that out, I took that back from the conditions, and that's how I interpreted it to be working.
Yeah, the staging plan in hindsight was always a dangerous thing if it showed at least with dotted lines, you know what I mean, different.
Yeah.
that's helpful.
Yeah. Don't be surprised if you get asked for a new staging plan then.
Okay. We can deal with that.
We'll see what happens when we talk. Assume that we might go down the granting process. That might be something just to clarify that and make it clear. Because if intelligent people like Anne and I are having trouble, others less intelligent maybe have bigger troubles. a little bit too dear. Now I've got a question about. I'm not sure if this question is one really for Ollie or for the applicant, so I'll do it now and then between the periods you can pick it up. Proposed condition 8D on page 121 of our agenda talks about water mains and things like that. And I've got this note that says, will this provide for hydrants within the right of ways for lots 1 and 2, and will lots 3, 4 and 5 have access to a hydrant on Dunstan Road? By that stage 2 condition, and I just was trying to work it out and say, well, will the hydrants be in stage 2? Will they be out on the road, or what's going to happen with that?
That would be something that would be part of the engineering. I imagine if it's not detailed in this condition, it would still be subject to engineering approval.
But that's I can the panel could rely on engineering approval to pick up the intricacies.
Council will bring the firefighting code of practice.
Yeah.
Code of practice as well, to make sure that if the hydrants are in the road, or wherever the hydrants are, they're within a suitable distance.
Yeah. That was what my question was about, because I'm going, distances are important here, because I know how long. Well,
Yeah, and if
I
they,
drive on fire trucks and I know how much hose we got. There's nothing worse than being short at one end.
yeah, fair enough, and I think that would take care of that. If
Okay.
they need to be closer, they'd be put into the right of way easement, or
Standards
Right,
apply.
and I'm sure Ollie will tell me that we're both right now.
from, I think he agrees.
He will in a minute when I get to him. The proposed condition on page 123 under footpath berms and landscaping talks about a shared footpath cycleway must be constructed on the north side of the proposed right of way. And I'm looking at the plan, north side of the right of way. I'm just not sure where it is, so I'm going to suggest that if the panels have a mind to grant consent, that probably should be shown on the plan about where the footpath's going to go, so there's no confusion, unless I'm just too simple and miss something. Because if I look at the right of way, it runs sort of from southwest to northeast, and I'm going, what's the north side of that? I guess it's adjacent to lot 3. Am I on the right track? Or
Yeah, it's a guess, but it can be.
Yeah.
Provided with verification. Yeah.
That is correct. So we should say northwest.
well, yeah, just didn't want to be assumed that I was right. Righto, and on the following page, condition S refers to landscaping of Dunstan Road. And it talks in there, must be completed in general accordance with the landscape plan attached in Appendix 3. And my question is, that should have a date by when, I would imagine.
Yep. It'll be prior to 224C, so it'll be part of the subdivision development. I did take the condition then I was. What pages?
124. Just before financial contributions.
But can I offer that we take a wee look at that, because that that landscaping proposed at the moment is within the private lot boundaries, and so would typically be done, or would probably be done as subsequent to a building process. And so I wonder, Craig, if it's appropriate that we take a look and clarify that sequencing and time, the time within which we propose that be done.
Yeah, okay, if that's.
Yeah, well, we could, depending on where we get to, but that might be an important thing to pick up just to make sure it's clear, because I think everyone needs some certainty about when, and we don't want to be having conversations afterwards. So maybe if it can't be resolved today, it may be something that you might want to say in terms of write a reply that you'd confirm something to the hearing being adjourned.
Currently it's drafted, yeah, okay, thanks for the opportunity on that. But currently it's, just to clarify, the sort of provide a preliminary answer. It's a section 224C condition, so it'd need to be installed and alive for council satisfaction prior to getting title for stage 2.
Okay. Right, so mate, so that would cover it anyway.
Yeah, that's what's drafted at the moment.
Yeah.
So I'll just revert back and see what chance.
Yeah, okay, yeah, fine, yeah, yeah, right. Okay, and my final observation is around financial contributions. So just under that, on that same page, that talks about the financial contributions that are required. And I guess my question is that when I look at that in terms of also looking at note 3 on page 128, my question is about, because of staging, is when would those payments be made? Oh, prior to 224C, just answer my own question.
Yeah.
Look at that.
My colleague's got a different answer there. That's my understanding.
Yeah. Ollie will tell me if I've got that wrong, but I think I just answered my question by the bit of information that I didn't notice when I was reviewing this.
Sometimes it's clearer and they look at section 5.
Yeah. Nothing like looking like you're human, is there? Okay, that's my questions. Panel? Nothing. Sorry if I took all your questions.
I put one on.
And anything technical I need to?
No,
No, all good.
of course, yeah.
Thank you. Right, thank you, gentlemen. I'll pass over to our section 42A planning consultant, Ollie, for to respond to any matters raised in the evidence indicating whether your original recommendation stands or if you wish to amend it. Welcome, Ollie.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll try to just touch quickly on the matters you raised there in terms of hydrant coverage. It's standard sort of practice in these subdivisions that the specific hydrant locations are a detailed engineering design matter. And that's dictated ultimately by the standards. I have gone so far with this one because I always have a bit of a concern with large lot residential sites that sometimes you can end up with not the best outcomes in terms of those standards, because basically where houses end up is often out of range of the hydrant. In this case, I'm satisfied that's very, very well. That shouldn't happen. There's all the resulting lots should be easily within 90 meters of quite possibly more than one hydrant at the end of the day, but certainly one. Landscaping timing, I think we've picked up on that. So the way that's currently structured, those works along Dunstan Road are required by the developer prior to 224C, and then there is a consent notice condition recommended, which I suppose puts the responsibility of the upkeep of that back on the new owners of those titles once new titles have been issued.
And that'll be part of stage 1, Ollie.
That'll be stage 2. So
Stage 2, sorry.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. That makes sense, yep. Anything else?
And you got it. Contributions are a requirement to 224C for subdivisions. I don't think I've missed anything you picked up on there. If I have, let me know. Otherwise, I can confirm there's nothing else raised that would change anything in my recommendation at this point.
Thank you. Panel, any questions, Ollie?
I have just a brief one. I'm not sure if it's all in. It's just a clarification. So stage 1 involves the upgrade of the on-site waste disposal remaining, and stage 2 obviously is connecting to the reticulator. Is there an intention to, just to be clear, just clarification, that lot 1, once that reticulation is in place, will be connected? Is that the assumption?
Yes.
Okay.
I thought I read that somewhere.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a niggly situation with that, and ultimately that condition there is because the current disposal field is over the boundary that's proposed with lot 2, so that needs to be relocated. in stage one. But the intent ultimately is that lot one will not be serviced by an on-site wastewater system. It'll be serviced by reticulation like all the other lots as soon as that's available. You've just reminded me, and I'll just touch upon that whole, I guess, confusion with the staging plans. I also went through that at one point with it, and I'll just point out that the way I've structured this consent does break those plans up into Appendix 1, Appendix 2. So Appendix 2 is specifically outlining the staging, but Appendix 1 is the scheme plan that shows the subdivision as it's proposed.
I'm more looking at the conditions of consent in terms of reflecting that. So that's okay. Thank you. I assume that that's the intention.
Well, thanks, Ollie. Back to the applicant for right of reply. You need to confer with Mr. Garden.
He'll get out if it goes. I just on the last question, condition H, page 121, wastewater stage 2.
Yeah.
Over the page to condition I on page 2. There's a new standard. This is lots 1 to 5.
Yeah.
So if we pull up that right, then it includes.
Yeah.
The connection. Boundary for installed.
It's just that lot one, as we pointed out before, is not shown in stage 2. So that was where my clarification was coming from.
But should be lot 1 of the plan, but yeah.
So it'd be the.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if that reflection of lot 1 needs to be in G rather than like there's sort of G, Roman numeral 1, Roman numeral 2 is when it's there rather than in stage 2.
Specifically related to stage
Yeah.
1.
I don't know.
But yeah, there won't be a connection. If there's a boundary put installed for lot 1 in stage 1, it's going to just be sitting there without anything else attached to it until stage 2. So when it gets connected to the councils.
Oh, yeah, no, but I'm just sort of thinking about a stage that. Like
Yeah, right. Okay.
Because it's not in stage 2, lot 1.
So I think that's something the panel, if it's of a minor grant consent, can pick up in its decision
It's just a
and
clarity
reflect that.
Yeah.
in the condition.
If I might just sort of add some context, and we've shared with Ollie the further terms of sale on that lot 1, and we have specifically set up the process for installing that wastewater connection to lot 1 after it is titled in any sale process. So it's yeah, we've in a practical sense we've worked through.
It's just more around making sure that it's clear that it has to be connected once it's available.
Agreed.
Yeah, well, and so the panel would, if it's of a minor grant consent, can make sure that that's well covered. But I think the intention is quite clear. That's been confirmed. And if we are a minor grant, we can make sure that the conditions reflect that. We'll be satisfied that they are, and not saying they aren't in their current form, but we can work that through. Anything else you'd like to add?
That's it. Thank you.
All right. Any questions? Nope. Well, on that basis, the decision of the hearings panel is reserved. The formal decision will be in writing and will be available in the statutory period of 15 working days. In the event the release of the decision is delayed, the applicant will be advised of the delay. The hearing is now adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, panel, chair, everyone. Thanks, Ollie.
Right. Rightio. I'll move that we go